Hello, I'm Harry Harding, and welcome to my new online series. These are troubling and uncertain times for actors, and indeed for the theatre industry. So I thought, whilst we're all locked down, I would keep in touch with my fellow creatives by talking about our favourite subject: ourselves. In this series, I'll be interviewing fellow actors and creatives on everything from their favourite roles to dream castings to funny backstage mishaps and more. But before we proceed, please don't swear, and please don't say Macbeth. Oh, hang on a minute. I just... Cue the titles. My guest this episode is actor, writer, filmmaker Nina Atesh. Nina owes her experience and training as an actor to community theatre and amateur dramatics. After studying drama at secondary school, she opted to major in media and film at Brighton University. Her first venture onto the stage was as Candy, the southern US bad girl in Margate Operatic Society's production of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Whistle Down the Wind. After moving to London, she joined the People's Company. With this company came the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity of performing at the now derelict but once popular venue, the Coronet Theatre, and the opportunity of performing at the Sam Wanamaker Theatre and Shakespeare's Globe. Between various fringe productions over the past couple of years, Nina has been involved in comedy venture Him Indoors with friend and co-creator Sonia Doubleday. The show debuted at the Blue Elephant Theatre in 2018 and had two performances at the London Horror Festival at the Pleasance Theatre last October. The show now has a spin-off named Titty Tootar TV, with plans to take it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival next year. Nina, welcome to the show. Please don't swear and please don't say Macbeth.
My lips are sealed, Mr. Harding.
Excellent. So, first of all, how have you been? How have you been coping during lockdown? Have you been throwing yourself into projects at all?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's been easy. I'm not used to being confined at home. I like being out and about. It has been really hard. There's been good days and bad days. I'm not very good with the whole doing stuff online. That's been a whole new venture for me. I have done a bit of performing online. We've got this new comedy project which we've done a couple of test runs of, which has been interesting. It's weird to perform in front of a virtual audience and not be able to hear them. That's the strangest thing, not being able to hear people laughing or cheering or booing. It's been strange. It's been, everyone's been having trouble with it, I'm sure. It's been a really interesting time for everyone, but I am looking forward to it being over, let's put it that way, and being back outside in the real world, whatever that will be when it comes back around again.
So I want to talk to you about your roots. Now, you were actively involved in non-professional theatre in your early days, as was I, and still am. But personally, I think that the world of non-professional theatre is a wonderful training resource. I just want to read to you a quote that I found. by Susan Elkin of The Stage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she says, amateur theatre has a quaint and outdated image, and that connotation-laden moniker Amdram sums it up. There is some fine work going on in many of these companies and a great deal of collaborative learning, so it's a real training environment, not least because the boundaries between amateur and professional have become so blurred in recent years. Let's just remember that at the base, the only real difference is that amateurs do it literally for the love, and professionals are paid, or should be. I prefer to refer to it as non-commercial theatre, actually.
Yeah, that is so true.
So do you think that your experience shaped you into the actor you are today?
100%. And I think I'd be a completely different kind of performer, a completely different kind of person, really. Yeah, I think amateur dramatic societies and community theatre groups are so underrated. And it, like the quote says, people do it out of the love, and that is such an obvious thing when you go to these, when you join with these companies, and it's just such a nice atmosphere to be a part of, and it's so rewarding as well to be with people like that. And there's no, I think there obviously are a few of them, like there are with everything, but there's not as many egos in groups like that. Because there's just such a range of performers. You get young people who are trying it out for the first time, you get older people who are just doing it because they want something to do and to meet people. And I was really lucky when I came out of university and I wanted to go back into acting. I joined a really good and really well-funded amateur society called the Margate Operatic Society in Kent. And they did musicals mainly, musicals and panto. They still do, they're still running, they still put on really good performances. And I was really lucky to be a part of them because they were so professional. And we got to perform in a fantastic venue, the Winter Gardens in Margate, which is such a historical and brilliant venue. It's a huge old theatre, it houses like thousands of seats. And it's a professional theatre. People put on professional performances there. So to be able to have that experience of performing on a proper stage, there's nothing else like it. Nothing will come close to actually having the experience of performing on stage for real, or performing in front of the camera for real. So for me, like, my advice to anyone starting out in acting would be join an Amdram, pay £20 for the year, £30 for the year, or join a community theatre and don't pay anything and get that experience for free. And we're expected to pay for so much as actors anyway, starting out. So I think it's just, you know, you can do it in different ways, and that I would absolutely recommend doing that. It's a fantastic experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world, definitely.
I completely agree, and I also think that that is extremely good advice, and it's advice that I myself have given out in the past to people who have asked me about starting out in the professional world. I've said to them, join a non-professional theatre company and do that as well.
Yeah.
Hone your craft. Do you have a standout production that you remember from your time?
For me, it would definitely be the first performance that I did, which was Whistle Down the Wind, which is one of Andrew Lloyd Webber's lesser known musicals, but it's wonderful. It's a really sweet and innocent story about, I don't know if you know the story, but it's based on a book as well, and I read it as a child. And I actually had a bit of a link with the show because when I was very young, when I was about 8 years old, I went to audition for the actual West End performance of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my sister took me to the audition, and obviously I didn't get through. But it was like, oh, what a strange little link to my, days as a child performing, to then be actually performing in a full-on production of it. So yeah, it's a really nice story about a man who's, I think, on the run from the law, and he ends up in a barn in this tiny little town, and these children find him in their barn and they've lost their mother, and one of the daughters, or the children, think that he's Jesus. They think that he's fallen from the sky and he's like Jesus reborn, but he's just this kind of tramp. So it's just a really lovely feel-good story. I played the bad girl. I played like the horrible sort of hick kind of, oh, you know, I want to get out of this town and I'm sick of it. And so I got to sing some really cool, like hard rocky song. I really was like thrown in at the deep end. I was new to this society. I didn't really know any of them. A lot of them were like, you know, childhood friends, and I was just this new girl who suddenly had this quite big part, and I was writhing around and gyrating with this guy on stage. But it was really good fun, and yeah, I was just like blown away by how professional it was. For me, having never kind of acted before in anything that wasn't like a school production or, you know, a student film, it was a real sort of like, oh, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. That was like the moment for me that like completely turned around my like outview, and I was like, okay, this is it, this is what I'm going to do. And that started my journey, basically.
Do you have a favourite character that you've ever played? And if so, why is that your favourite?
I did a play last year called The King in Yellow. This was a fringe show. We were actually supposed to do another performance just last month, which obviously got postponed because of the lockdown. But I played 3 different characters in it. And one of the characters that I played, he was like this really gross, old, disgusting character who owned a bookshop, and he was like a bit crazy and mad, and I got to like be sort of like hunched over and put on a top hat, and he had all these like weird mad ideas about this guy who was going to become the king of the United States of America. So I got to put on this really like horrible gravelly voice and be like a disgusting New Yorker, and that was really fun. I think I like playing characters that are a bit gross. a bit sort of like mangled and crazy, and he was a bit sort of villainous as well. And I think, you know, baddies are always really fun to play, so anything like that where I get to be a little bit disgusting and old, it's really fun for me. That's a standout one. I really enjoyed that. And also I transitioned from quite a pleasant, nice character in the previous scene, having played like quite a sort of dainty like woman of the 20s, into suddenly playing this really disgusting old horrible man. So that was really enjoyable for me.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first, viewers. Any casting directors watching, if there are any disgusting old man parts, then Nina is available.
I'm your woman.
She's your woman. Now, there's something I hear, I've touched on it in a previous episode, and it's what I call the big 3. For me, the big 3 are doing the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, playing Hamlet, regardless of whether you're a male or female actor, and performing at the Globe. Now, and you have had the privilege of having achieved one of these big 3, which is, of course, performing at the Globe. So what was that experience like? I mean, was it as amazing as one imagines?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was so just completely surreal. What was weird is that the week before I'd performed at the Globe, I saw Othello being performed, and with Mark Rylance in, and he was playing Iago. So when I was backstage at the Globe, I was thinking like, oh my God, like literally last week, Mark Rylance was here standing like in my spot, and he was on this stage, and I'm about to go on. It was just so surreal. It was a mad moment. It was a very short little performance. It was part of a thing called Sonnet Sunday, where lots of different acting communities in the area in Southwark came onto the Globe stage, or were at the Globe in various different locations performing Shakespeare's famous sonnets. And again, another thing that's wonderful about being in community theatre or amateur dramatics, you never know where it's going to take you. And for me, it took me onto the Globe stage. So yeah, it was wonderful. We did like a 5-minute little performance, the whole community theatre, and we got to say different lines from the sonnet. And it was just mad. It was madness. Like it went like that, you know, as most performances do. But in that same summer, and not off the back of that, but off the back of another performance that we did of As You Like It, that was how that came about. And we did As You Like It. It was an outdoor performance, but we got the opportunity to do a scene from As You Like It at the SAY MACBETH Theatre, a beautiful, stunning Jacobean theatre indoors. It's like all candle lit. And we got to do a really wonderful scene from that as well. And I played Celia in As You Like It, which I absolutely adored. It was, again, another one of my favourite parts to play. But yeah, Shakespeare's always been a massive part of my performing life. And, you know, I studied him at school, of course. And, you know, we do a lot of him I did a lot of him when I was with the People's Company, because they're based in Southwark, and obviously the Globe Theatre is based here as well. So, yeah, wonderful, amazing experience. And I hope I get to perform there again in the future.
I mean, that does sound magical. And you made a very good point there. To some professionals will go throughout their entire career and never perform at the Globe. And yet you've already done that with a non-professional company. A wonderful, wonderful achievement there.
Yeah.
So you have been involved in several collaborations with Sonia Doubleday. There was the comedy venture Him Indoors, which debuted at the Blue Elephant Theatre and was then taken to the London Horror Festival. And you've also created a spin-off show, Titty Tootar TV, which I have had the pleasure to have seen, albeit on Zoom. Most surreal piece of theatre I think I've ever witnessed in my life. So, what are your future plans for the show? And are you any plans to revive Him Indoors, or are you just focusing on the new work now?
Well, Him Indoors was actually a venture that Sonia Doubleday, my friend, who I met through the People's Company. So again, another community theatre link. But we became really good friends, and she's been a comedian, stand-up comedian for years. She's an absolute genius. She's just so wacky and wild, which I'm sure you can tell. That is her, like, when you see Titty Tootar TV, that is just Sonia's mind. Like, that's how her mind works. That's how she comes up with comedy. But it's great, and it's right up my street, and that's why I think we get on so well, and we improv well together. But Him Indoors is she did a short film many, many years ago called Him Indoors, which was the same kind of concept about a lady called Sally who goes into a cafe and she swallows a tiny little man who then ends up squatting in her stomach. And Him Indoors, the theatre show, was about, it is as crazy as it sounds, was about a journalist who follows this story, who hears about this woman in Titty Tootar town and decides to go up there and make his big break in the journalist world to find this woman who's got this man trapped in her body. And along the way, he bumps into all these mad, crazy characters that were played by me and Sonia. And it was kind of like a bit of a sort of, we were making fun of the whole film noir genre. You know, the journalist comes on, he's got a cigarette, and he's all like, you know, it all started about a year ago, and that sort of thing.
I can see that working well, this film noir spoof.
Yeah, exactly. So we did that. So yeah, we definitely want to do more of Him Indoors if we can. Unfortunately, the gentleman who played our journalist when we did it at the London Horror Fest and when we debuted at the Blue Elephant Theatre can't perform with us anymore. So now it's just a case of finding the right person for that role. So if we can find the right journalist, if we can find someone to play him, then we'll definitely try and do it again, because it's a really fun show to do.
Well, there you go, viewers, another exclusive there. If you're looking for a challenging role with a couple of female actors, there you go.
There we go. Hit me up. So yeah, but again, the Titty Tootar TV is a spin-off of the Him Indoors world. And Sonia's been doing characters from Titty Tootar for years. Again, like she did the Clouds, where she's like clouds, and she did a character from Space where she's a black hole and she sucks people up into her hole. That's characters that she's been doing on stage for years. So we just kind of
a PG show. Keep it clean, please.
I'm sorry. So, I don't know what you're talking about, Harry. That was completely clean. It's your mind.
You're right. Sorry. Yeah.
So Titty Tootar TV is something that we can continue just as and when we like, because we can put in characters from him indoors in there, which is good. We don't really have to rely on anyone else, so we can just do it, you know. Hopefully, if live theatre comes back, when it does, we will take it back on stage again. Eventually, when things return to normal, we're going to try and do a TV show. She's got a director in mind, and so we're going to try and get some people on board and try and do a show, a web series, or whether we pitch it to producers or something, I don't know. That's, again, something that we're talking about for in the future.
Well, I thoroughly look forward to seeing it live as opposed to just on Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have a dream role that you've always wanted to play? And if you could play any role in the world, what would your dream role be?
As much as I love comedy, and that's what I think I'll probably end up doing more of, I'd really like to play like something really gritty, like an action hero or something like that, or like a Bond kind of character, but not Bond, but like a female Bond, that's just as cool and just as suave and maybe just as sexy. But something like that would be really cool. I love sci-fi as well. I really like sci-fi, and I write a bit of sci-fi, as in, like, if I ever go into filmmaking or script writing, which I do, I usually end up writing sci-fi, which is a bit weird considering I've never really played any sci-fi roles. But that's something I'd really like to do as well, like maybe be the next captain of the Enterprise or something like that.
That is a great answer. I love that. Well, I'll tell you what, the answer there is to write a gritty sci-fi thriller with a heroic female action lead for yourself. You know, they say create your own work, create your own dream.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. And maybe we'll chuck in a bit of comedy in there as well. Like maybe I'll end up morphing into some disgusting old woman, some old hag in it. You could do anything with sci-fi, right? So I can have that as well.
Yeah,
we can do a bit of that.
The comic relief sidekick or the villain, because that's all I can do apparently.
Absolutely.
So finally, obviously we discussed Titty Tutar TV. But are there any other projects in the future that you've got coming up, or perhaps you were hoping to start, later in the year?
Well, in the same vein as the sci-fi thing, I had actually written a film. It's a short film. It was going to have no dialogue in it, so it was going to be heavily based around the musical score. And I was heavily influenced by a YouTuber called Melody Sheep, who does videos about the universe and the beginnings of the world and stuff like that. He's very, very good, very talented, and he writes his own music for it, and I was kind of inspired by that. So I'd written a short film, and I was in discussion with a friend from college who also is very technical with cameras and stuff, and we were talking about possibly filming it this summer, and obviously all this happened. So it's given me an opportunity to put it off until next year, which actually has kind of worked out for the best, because I want to get a budget for it, I want to get some funding for it, I want to pay the actors and pay my crew and get a good crew together and then submit it to film festivals. So apart from Titty Tutar TV and general acting stuff, that is what I'd really like to do more of, is write my own stuff and film my own stuff and do stuff like that.
And you do have a degree in filmmaking?
Yeah, at university I studied film, I studied media, and that's what I did. I made films and I wrote scripts after doing drama at school. So it is, my number one love is acting, but my second very, very close love is filmmaking.
Well, Nina, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. I've thoroughly enjoyed your stories.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care of yourself, stay well and stay safe.
You too, Harry. Take care.
If you would like to be a guest on Series 2 of Don't Say Macbeth, then you can send me a private message on Facebook or Instagram. Or if you're lucky enough to have my telephone number, you can send me a WhatsApp message.